Yo, today's topic is how to fight through discouragement and what you could be able to do to combat this so you could be able to do what you want to do and be able to live the life you want to live without fear, right? The discouragement. What is it? It reminds me of Courage the Cowardly Dog, where the lessons was the dog was always in fear, but he had to learn to build courage to go and do and take on that challenge. And it's the same thing in real life, right? The thing is, when you're going against discouragement, it's not about your mind fighting it with your mind. It's about the act of doing, right? The courage of doing something. And it's a muscle that you have to build up and work on in order to get over those humps. And you're still not going to get used to it, because when there's a new challenge, you're always going to feel like it's impossible to overcome, or that there's fear of overcoming it, right? So these are the things that I would recommend trying to do to overcome it. Number one is just balls to the wall. Just go straight into it and just do it without even thinking. Sometimes it's overthinking, and I'm one of those guys who overthinks a lot when it comes to opposing and challenging a challenge that comes towards me, right? Because you overthink of like, okay, how could I do this? You plan and you overthink, whatever the case might be, but you just gotta just do it, right? That's one of the ones that you have to do. The next thing is just clearing your mind. It still is the same thing as far as not overthinking it, but clearing your mind and just allow yourself to just do one step at a time, right? One step at a time allows you to be able to see progression, which therefore builds the courage to say, oh, I actually can do this. I give you an example. It's tax season, right? You gotta file your taxes. And my thing is, when I was filing the taxes, I was like, am I gonna owe enough? Dude, how much gotta pay out of pocket? But whenever I did file the taxes and I said, all right, let's just get the W-2 forms and whatever, and we're just gonna take it a step at a time, fill out the applications and stuff, and I did on my own, me and my wife, and found out we didn't owe as much. You know what I'm saying? It really wasn't as bad than I thought. I thought I was gonna owe thousands of dollars, but it wasn't the case. It was a few hundreds, right? So it's the thing of the fear that we have in our mind that tells us something that's way bigger than it is. Next thing, procrastination. You gotta kill the procrastination right at its neck. You gotta chop it off, bro. Chop it off. It segues, and they all intertwine. Because why? Because not only that they intertwine, but these are characteristics that cause you to fully not commit to what you're trying to do or feeling discouraged. Some of you might be just even maybe when it comes to like dealing with people, right? Or it might be just taking on a challenge, or a what they call it, subjects of like tasks, right? It's just depends. It's a scenario you have to identify. If it's a task, okay, I had accidentally had stopped the recording, but what I was talking about as far as with task is that you might just be dealing with procrastination on that and then making the ideal way bigger than it is. Those are another things. These are all intertwined, again, all intertwined with each other, that really is causing you to make the problem bigger than what it is. And as soon as you get out your head, it's the fastest way that you're gonna be able to do it. It's like, I give you an example, right? When it comes to certain works, like my videos, I want to make them perfect. And that's another thing. You can't always expect and try to look and make things perfect. Sometimes, like, that's not the answer. And when you do that, you make it to where it's hard to just execute and put things together and put things out for the world to enjoy. Like, we are our biggest critique. And sometimes we might feel like, man, people might not like this, or they might not like me or how I present this, or I don't look this well in this format, and so on. And that's just us in our mind. Again, when you get in your mind and you start doing this thing where you're like trying to battle out in your mind, man, you're going to continue to get your tail whooped every time, because your mind is going to create certain imaginations. It's very powerful. The same way it's very powerful to achieve dreams and to do stuff, it's the same way it can also be a negative effect to you by working against you, because your mind is powerful when it comes to imagination. It can create the most strongest enemy of you. Why would you want to battle against yourself? Exactly. You shouldn't, And so the best way to do it is you have to get out your mind and say, all right, I'm just going to implement steps because it's the only way. I'm going to tell you this. I was talking to my wife, and it was about like me getting used to going full time as a content creator. I still got a little part time job that I do, but full time is what I do as far as YouTube and content creation. I was telling her, like, even though I like figuring this out and it's kind of weird because I'm not used to it, as I'm going through all the emotions, I don't know which direction, how to take it, and so on. What's weird is I'm still exercising the muscles to create content and upload, even through the emotions that I'm going through roller coaster wise. And she was like, yeah, like you've been doing it for so long that, even though in the midst of you not sure how things are going to be, you have exercised that muscle so much that you're still doing the works, even when you feel like you're not delivering the way you thought you supposed to, or that you might feel, even though you feel discouraged, you're still doing the works. That shows someone who's just been going outside just the emotion part and just executing. And that's really good, the fact that you're doing that, right? And when she told me that, I'm like, yo, you're right. So you want to be able to do those things and like work on just building that muscle, because it's the most important thing to it's like a reflex of your muscle, where intuitively and intuition wise, you just do the works. And it's not the most easiest thing said to be done, because you have to overcome the mindset of, in your imagination, what you got going on in there. But if you could just think of, okay, let me implement steps and just slowly do things time after time, eventually you'll get quicker, better, and you also have a certain system. Another thing, figure out a system that you can come with that can allow you to get out of that, right? You don't want to spend too much time in your mind, bro. You really don't, because you spend a lot of time in your mind, you're going to waste hours. I know, because I've done this, where I'll sit there for a whole day and I'll just be in my mind and be like, what I'm gonna do with this, how I'm gonna do that, what's this, and then by 5 hours down the line, you wasted 5 hours. I don't wasted 5 hours thinking when I could just try stuff. The fastest way to see a result is by the act of doing, right? As long as you ain't doing nothing that's gonna cause harm or anything, or just gonna totally backfire on you to where it puts you back. I mean, you might get in a little debt. You might, but just be smart on how you move and stuff, and you always bounce back. Even if you get into a small hole, you'll always bounce back. The intention is trying to make progression forward. And if you always doing that, even if you fall, you want to fall forward. And if you can do that, man, you'll find success in anything that you do. And again, the best way to combat that discouragement is by the act of doing. And I love to use that example, because me and my wife was talking about the Courage Curly dog thing. Like, it's one of those things where that's where in the cartoon that was the story, that was the lesson of the whole point. The whole plot of it is that dog was the most scariest thing ever, but guess what? He over time built the courage to act on what he needed to do to overcome that fear. And it's the same thing we gotta do in here. So hope y'all enjoy this and find some lots of value. Sorry it took a little while, but I've been, just living life. And, when I have something to post, I post, and I'm not just gonna force it. So hope y'all enjoy, man. See you on the next one. Peace.